This year, Apple released their coolest product ever. Problem is, you can't afford it. At $3,500, Apple's state-of-the-art mixed reality headset is out of your reach. Unless you're loaded. And if you are, my birthday's coming up. But if you're a broke boy like me, and you don't have an incredibly generous viewer who's looking to buy you an Apple Vision Pro, then I may have a secret that can actually get you the Apple Vision Pro experience and save you $3,000. Or it may just be the Apple Vision Pro we have at home. But first, a word from our sponsor. Before I tell you the secret I found, we need to go over what the Apple Vision Pro actually is. So for the uneducated, let's educate. The Apple Vision Pro is Apple's brand new VR and mixed reality headset. Though they like to call it spatial computing because it sounds much fancier. It's more advanced in several key areas than what other companies have. But its biggest wins are in the areas of clarity, power, the user interface, and probably the most important feature to ever be released on any tech product ever. It has an Apple logo. But all those features come with one massive negative: the price. As we mentioned earlier, it is expensive. The price of a 2014 Ford Fusion. So in comes the Meta Quest 3, the first part of our solution. But don't worry, that'd be kind of a lame answer. It's not the secret part. It's not the part that I'm making this video about. Not yet. One of the most important wins that the Apple Vision Pro has is its user interface, aka the holograms that you see and interact with when you have this baby on. The Apple Vision Pro's user interface is incredibly sleek, with smooth animations, gently rounded corners, and an intuitive app page. Compared this to the Meta Quest 3, and though the Meta Quest 3 is an incredibly popular headset, and in a lot of ways it kicks Apple's butt, in ways like gaming and comfort, it's still catching up in other areas though. The UI being a big one that it's fallen behind on the Apple Vision Pro on. While effective, it feels somewhat dated, particularly in its app setup. The Quest allows for up to 3 2D apps to open simultaneously in fixed positions that you can place around your room, either flat or on a curved multi-monitor setup. But in contrast, it's just not as good as what the Apple Vision Pro has. It lets you place 2D apps or browsers or whatever anywhere in your space, offering superior customization and multitasking capabilities. So if you're looking to get work done, or you're watching lots of movies in Apple's headset, like they win easy. Until now, getting the Apple Vision Pro experience meant shelling out a whopping $3,500 for the headset, or getting a brief demo at an Apple store. But now there's a third option. The Meta Horizon App Store offers plenty of experiences that are actually hidden gems, especially in the App Lab section, which features newer, more experimental apps from passionate indie developers, a lot of them. And recently, I think I might have hit the jackpot with one such gem. One that could turn the Meta Quest 3 into the Apple Vision Pro. But first, if you're enjoying this video, I want to ask, please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. I'm just starting my YouTube journey, and a simple like and subscribe, these things can make a massive difference and goes a long way for a small channel like mine. I really appreciate you. So the hidden gem, the app I'm here to talk about, is very straightforwardly named the Spatial App. Remember the whole spatial computing that Apple is talking about? And it essentially transforms your Meta Quest 3 into an Apple Vision Pro. So you put on the headset, you open up the Spatial App, and it opens to the title and nothing else. I was a little confused at first. You see your room and nothing else, except when you look at your hand, you see 2 extra buttons in the palm of your hand. One, a keyboard shortcut, and the other, well, the other brings your Apple Vision Pro experience to life. When you tap the hexagon, a list of apps softly fade into your view, and you find yourself staring at VisionOS, or at least a very convincing version of it. 3 pages of apps are now available to you, and they're in the exact same style as Apple's headset. You'll find pre-installed apps like YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, various Google apps, and even Apple apps, along with major streaming services available to you floating in your room. It's kind of nice. Each app opens up as a floating window that you can position anywhere in your space, mimicking the VisionOS experience, which, as we established earlier, is a pretty big win. You can move the window around using the little bottom bar, expand it by hovering over the bottom right corner and grabbing that curved bar that appears, and even close out the apps pretty simply with the dot to the left side of the movement bar. It's all super easy to use and incredibly simple. Unlike Horizon OS, Meta's operating system, you can multitask in the Spatial app to your heart's content. You can open as many apps as you want and place them where you want them. Adjust the size, the shape, and have a whole load of holograms floating in your vision as you work, study, or entertain yourself. It's a multitasker's dream. The app also has plenty of thoughtful touches and attention to detail that I found really impressive. And so if you're one who appreciates the little things, you're really gonna love it. One of my favorite things is how when you hit the full screen button on a video, you'll see a little button above the screen that encourages you to enter cinema mode. If you click it, and you definitely should, what it'll do is it'll expand your video and dim the lights in your real world, and light up the areas around the screen so it looks like light is coming off of it. And while it does that, it hides all of your other apps around you, creating a sort of space where you can really focus in, kind of setting an ambiance. But if you get a little antsy just doing one thing at a time, like I do, in this mode you can also still open up a new app and scroll around while your show's going on. The video is also incredibly crisp, and when you're done watching, you can just leave cinema mode and all the apps that you had fade right back in where you left them. Other neat features are widgets, which you can put in your physical space, with more labeled as coming soon. There's keyboard support for productivity, and my personal favorite has got to be a clever little feature to disable hand tracking by tapping your fingers together on your left hand. Now, this prevents accidental interaction with apps, a pretty common issue in mixed reality apps so far. It's honestly such a good feature that I think Meta should copy their homework and incorporate this into the headset at an OS level, where you can just turn it off and you don't accidentally touch anything. The Spatial app gets a lot right, but there may possibly, could definitely, maybe be just a little teeny tiny bitty tad bit of negatives to the whole experience. It's not perfect for sure. To start, while the Spatial app includes a variety of pre-installed apps, you can't actually add new ones or customize the layout at all. The apps are also just web versions of the apps rather than mobile, like full mobile ones that we're used to, which isn't a deal breaker, but I felt like it was worth noting. While you can open a large amount of apps all at the same time, and by a large amount, I mean literally every single app you can open at the same time and have floating in your space, that doesn't mean they'll all run super well. Now, I've noticed some lagging once I open some high-intensity apps all simultaneously, but this could also be affected by my internet, which can be spotty at times. The Meta Quest 3 has a mobile VR chip though, instead of a computer chip like the Apple Vision Pro has, so if it was an issue with it not being able to keep up with the workload, it would make sense for the chip to struggle a bit. Of course, I can't say this definitively because it could just be a connection issue. Now, as great as the UI is, which it's just a highlight of the Spatial app, it definitely has its own share of quirks. One of the frustrating things that I found is that you actually can't tap on the screens of your apps, which is really weird. You can do this with the Apple Vision Pro and Meta Quest 3's normal apps, but not in the Spatial app. It's kind of odd. This is especially weird when using things like certain widgets like the calculator, because you actually can't tap on the buttons, but instead you have to point your hand towards each key and tap your fingers together. It's just not a very fluid experience. One thing you can tap on though is the keyboard, and honestly, it's not good. It's just hard to type on, and just a much worse experience than the version that Meta already has built into the headset. I really wish they would have just stuck with Meta's. Since the keyboard is so bad, I've typically just found myself using a Bluetooth keyboard, which, like I mentioned earlier, works really well. It's a really good experience. Sadly, the same thing can't be said about the mouse situation. It does not seem to work with a Bluetooth mouse from what I've seen so far at all. I have two different mice that are actually already connected to my Quest 3, and when I'll be using VisionOS, they work great. But as soon as I switch to the Spatial app, they no longer work. And even at one point, caused my system to bug out. I really hope they get this fixed sometime soon. This is annoying, but wouldn't it be as bad if there weren't quirks with interacting with text with your hands? See, the Spatial app uses the typical pointing your hand at what you want to interact with and tapping your fingers together to interact with it. This is a tried and true system, and it's been working for years. And it works with most all of Meta's experiences. The hangups that I have, they've come with highlighting text. It's not great in Meta's own app experiences. In the browser app, it's really hard to highlight things, but it's not even possible in the Spatial app, which is super bizarre. For some reason, you can't highlight things at all. It's a weird omission, especially for an app based on an operating system that was designed so heavily for getting work done. Another thing about the Spatial app that kind of drives me crazy is how it operates like a stationary app experience. Let me explain. When in pass-through mode with the Meta Quest, you can take your apps or browser anywhere. In Spatial, you're limited to a boundary, and you can't just get up and walk around and have your screen still there, because once you exit that boundary, the app stops working. I'm not sure, but I think this may actually be a limitation with the way developers are allowed to make apps, so I don't fully want to blame it on the creators, but I felt like it's worth noting for sure. Also, I didn't really know where to throw this, so here it is. But I was a big fan of them including widgets. It's really nice. You can grab them and place them in your environment, and they just kind of hang out there. But I was also surprised that you can't edit the time mode. At least it doesn't seem so based off of what I've seen in the settings. So what it is it's stuck in military time. And I want to change it to the 12-hour format, but I can't, and I'm not smart enough to do the math to figure out what 15 o'clock means. So before giving my final conclusion on my experience, I want to mention that this isn't some massive app developed by a big company like Apple, Google, Samsung, or Meta. It's likely a passion project by an indie developer who's just excited about being able to create this app. Regardless of quality, it's impressive, and I hope the app keeps growing and turns into something really exciting. But if you're going to spend $10, then I want it to be money well spent. So is it? Is the Spatial app a cheap way to make the Meta Quest 3 an Apple Vision Pro? Or is it simply the Apple Vision Pro we have at home? Is this a hidden gem that will save you thousands of dollars? Or just the off-brand experience? Well, when it comes to off-brand items, I think there's two extremes. One, off-brand cereal is one extreme, where it's like 90% of the cereal experience. Frosted Flakes, they're great. But great value Frosted Flakes, they're good. They're really good. They may not be the original, they may not be quite as great, but they're good anyways. And if you can't afford the real thing, you'll be perfectly happy with the off-brand. Then there's off-brand Oreos. They're awful. A complete waste of money. It's just chocolate disappointment. Nobody likes them. So, which one is the Spatial app? I honestly think the Spatial app is much more like the former than the latter. It's a solid app that takes the Apple Vision Pro experience and puts it on the Quest 3. It's like 90% of what makes it good. Maybe not quite that much, but it's a lot of it. I've been a big proponent of how good the Quest 3's browser and apps are for productivity, and I stand by that. But once you sit down in one spot and get ready to do some work, all its other apps don't seem near as appealing to me. The Spatial app now is just my preference. Now, I did list several negatives because it's not perfect. But when it comes down to it, the negatives definitely don't outweigh the positives. Some of the issues are frustrating, but many of the problem areas are easy to look past. It brings over a lot of what's good from the Apple Vision Pro, while also lacking, a bunch of features and some polish that you would expect from an Apple product. The core experience, though, it nails. It gives me exactly what I want: the multitasking capabilities. And it looks beautiful. Now, the app is still in development, so I'm excited to see what features are added and what rough edges are sanded down. But right now, this app is a good option for productivity and entertainment, with as many screens as you want, and it allows you to multitask till your heart's content. It costs $10, and for me, it's been $10 well spent. I'll be doing almost all of my college studying and YouTube script writing in the Spatial app from here on out. And if you want to see what studying in mixed reality looks like, then check out my channel. Otherwise, like, comment, and subscribe to see how mixed reality can make your life better. You have a great one. Thank you so much.